Welcome everyone. My name is Martin Soderberg. I work for TCO Development as the Industry Relations Manager. I'm coming to you live today from Taipei, Taiwan, where we have 32 degrees and sunny. It's pretty hot outside, so I'm happy to be in here. Today we're gonna talk about the TCO Certified Generation 9 final version. That doesn't mean it's the final edition, though. We have reason to release a second edition, but I'll come back to that. All right, some technical issues first. We have muted all your microphones, so we can't hear what you're saying, but please feel free to send in questions through the questions box that you'll find in the webinar tool. Okay, next slide, please. So this is the agenda for today, and we have allocated 2 hours for this webinar. I'm not sure we're going to use all of that. It depends a bit on how many questions we get from you. But if we go through the agenda briefly here, we're going to first start off with a short introduction to TCO Certified, for those of you who are not so familiar with what we do. Then we'll have a short introduction to TCO Certified Generation 9, and after that we'll start digging into the criteria, and we'll go through them chapter by chapter, starting with chapters 1, 2, and 3. After that, we're going to have a short 5-minute break, so you can get some coffee and maybe process a bit what you heard and think about if you have any questions that you want to ask us, and write that in the box. And when we come back, it's time to go through chapters 4 to 8. And after that, we're going to open up with all my colleagues in Sweden who are ready to answer all the questions that you have put to them. So I'll be reading the questions, and my colleagues will be answering the questions. And after that, it's time to wrap up. And if we don't have time to reach your questions, of course, you're welcome to send us an email. You'll find the email later on in the presentation. Okay, next slide, please. So I know that most of you are very familiar with TCO Certified. I see many familiar names that have logged in, so this is maybe a bit of a recap for you, but I'm going to be brief about this. But we started off in 1992 with the first TCO Certified label that was mainly focused on the electromagnetic fields from CRT monitors, and later on this has evolved into the TCO Certified label that we have today, and it's quite a different certification compared to 1992. Today we focus on working towards a sustainable life cycle for electronics and IT products. So as far as I know, there are no IT products that have a really sustainable life cycle. So we still have a lot of work to do before we reach that goal. TCO Certified is a rather complete sustainability certification, which covers both social and environmental responsibility, as well as some product-specific criteria that have more to do with user health and safety and ergonomics and such. We cover 11 plus 1 product categories. The reason why I've written it like that is that we cover today 11 product categories, but we're working on also including imaging equipment. Our ambition was originally to include this together with all the other product categories that we recently released, but we have found reason to delay that, and I'll get back to that later on in the presentation. So we have a cycle of development of criteria that means that we issue a new generation of criteria every third year. And in 2018, we released Generation 8. So consequently, 2021, it's time for Generation 9. We are a member of the Global Eco-Labeling Network, GEN, and as such, we are categorized as a Type 1 eco-label. Next slide, please. Yes. Okay, and something that we find very important is, and it's like a cornerstone of what we do, is to have independent verification to make sure that the criteria are met. And we don't do much evaluation of the criteria of the products ourselves. Instead, we work together with independent verification organizations that test the product and verify that the criteria are met. And so this independent verification is something that goes on not only before the product is released or the certificate is released, but also we do spot checks at factories. We do market surveillance testing where we purchase products, have them retested and reevaluated to make sure that they comply. We also do an annual evaluation to make sure that the socially responsible manufacturing criteria are met. And all of this is done so that buyers can know that they can trust the TCO Certified label and can be sure that the criteria that they find in our documents are actually met. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so we'll soon dig into the criteria, but just a few notes before we begin. We have generated machine-generated comparisons. I know some of you have asked for that. They're not available on our website, but if you ask us, we'll be happy to send them to you. And some other things, we are not perfect, I'm sorry to say. We have found some errors, some typing errors in this first edition of Generation 9 that was released on June 1st. Thankfully, we have some very particular readers out there who read every word and have given us some feedback of some errors. The first error that I want to tell you about is that in Chapter 2, the criteria numbers are shifted. So that means that what should have been criterion 2.1 became 2.2, and 2.2 became 2.3, and so on. And we're going to correct that, of course. There's also an incorrect reference to Energy Star standards. My colleague Victor will talk more about that. And there's also a third thing that we found is that in mandate 7.3, it should read product housing above 0.5 gram, and it should be applicable to product housing and power PCBs only. All right, so next slide, please. So in order to correct this, we are going to release a second edition on June 15th. And that's also when we open up the system for applications. We will also have a comparison document between the first edition and second edition, so you can see exactly what was changed between these two documents. Concerning upgrades, we have received quite a lot of questions about how to upgrade from Generation 8 to Generation 9, and so we realized that we need to publish some kind of upgrade procedure guidance document, and that we also are working on to release on June the 15th. And there are also some other missing supporting documents that that you'll find from June 15th. All right, next. So after all these explanations and introductions, it's time to finally have a look at Generation 9. This presentation is about TCO Certified Generation 9 and the final version, which was released on June the 1st. So for those of you who have followed the development of these criteria, you'll know that we have had 2 drafts before we landed in this final version. And we want to extend our gratitude to all of those of you who have contributed by commenting on the drafts and have taken time to meet with us to discuss the criteria. And I'd like to say that we have landed in a better set of criteria with your help. So thank you very much. This presentation looks at the differences between the current Generation 8 and Generation 9, which will soon be open for applications. And I'll explain how the transition is going to work. But before we go into details, I'd like to give you some background information, show you the development schedule, and some other useful hints. To start with, I'd like to explain the function of this presentation so that you can understand what to expect from it. The presentation covers the most important changes compared to Generation 8. Corrected wordings or other small editorial changes like that are not presented. So on the slides, we will focus on the difference compared to Generation 8. And if you want to get the full picture of the criteria in Generation 9, you'll need to read through the criteria documents that you'll find on our website. Imaging equipment that was added a bit late in the process is also going to be finalized later. We realized that we need to have more time to gather feedback and to work on the criteria. So the criteria for this product category is not going to be presented here, as we have postponed the launch for imaging equipment to 2022. So with this presentation, we are primarily aiming to reach those of you who are industry stakeholders and are already quite familiar with TCO Certified. In other words, we are mostly aiming for manufacturers and brand owners. Here is the team behind the Generation 9 development, and this is basically the same team that handles the everyday work with running the certification. Niklas Rydell is the team leader. He's been involved in the background in several areas, but he won't be presenting anything here today. Stephen Fuller, who's been working with criteria development for several years, is mainly focused on criteria related to socially responsible manufacturing, as well as chemical and material management. And Andreas Nobel has the title Development Manager, and he's been doing the project management for the development of Generation 9. And he's been making sure that everyone stays focused and delivers on time, and he's also been involved in the development on several of the criteria. Stefan Karlberg is mainly in charge of the criteria for batteries and post-consumer content, and on a daily basis, he's also in charge of the application process. Victor Wenström, who is our quality manager and also does most of our software development, has been mainly looking at the energy criteria, plus user health and safety related criteria, and also the sustainability performance indicators. My name is Martin Soderberg, and I'm not going to take much credit for the development work, but my job is to channel the information between TCO development and the industry. And of course, you don't need to remember who is responsible for what, but you can always get in contact with me and I'll make sure that your questions reach the right person. Throughout the development process, the criteria have been altered, of course, to some extent, but the main themes still remain. So these themes are found here. We want to take the next step for social responsibility and to improve the verification of compliance. The accepted substance list, or ASL for short, has so far only been used for flame retardants and plasticizers, but now we're also expanding it to cover process chemicals. We also want to take the next steps for circular economic solutions, extending product lifetime and promoting reuse. We want to offer better benchmarking through the sustainability performance indicators, moving from a mere pass or fail system and making it easier for buyers of IT products to compare and make more informed product choices. So this is the timeline for the development of Generation 9. If we look back, we released the first draft on November 6th in 2020. And draft number 2 was released on February 22nd. We received quite a lot of feedback, mostly from industry players, but also from purchasers and other organizations, and we're very grateful for that. It's been very good for us to get feedback from stakeholders with different perspectives so that we can easier balance the feedback and achieve a better set of criteria that are tough and relevant, but still reasonable to meet. So on June 1st, we released the final criteria, but we have changed the schedule slightly. I don't think it will make much of a practical difference for most of you, but we delayed the application date a couple of weeks to give the verification organizations some time to adapt their processes. So now we say that the application is open from June 15th. But please note that we will not release any certificates for Generation 9 until we arrive at the launch event, which will take place on December 1st, 2021. This means that if you send in an application during the period where it says application open between June 15th and the end of November, you will first receive a certificate covering the current generation, which is Generation 8, and you'll also receive information if you pass Generation 9. Then on the launch event, we will present all the brands that are the first to reach Generation 9 in no particular order. There will, of course, be other activities at this event. And the launch event will be an online event only. I'm sure you understand with the current pandemic situation. Another date to take note of is November 17th. If you send in a complete application that passes all the criteria by this date, we can guarantee that your brand will be noticed as one of the first to achieve Generation 9 and thereby receive a certificate at the launch event on December 1st. This is obviously a photo from before COVID when we could hand over the first certificates physically. This is a photo from the Generation 8 launch event in 2018. For the Generation 9, the first certificates will be handed over digitally or virtually. We're not exactly sure how this is going to work on December 1st, but we'll make sure that it's an interesting online event, and we hope that as many as possible of you can join this event. So we have this dedicated website for Generation 9, and how do you reach that? Well, if you visit our main website, tcocertified.com, and then click on For Industry, and then you'll find the next generation development in the submenu. And here you'll find the criteria documents and other supporting documents, and we'll keep adding more documents as they are ready. You'll also find YouTube videos presenting the criteria, and these will also be available to download for those of you who are in China and cannot access YouTube. If you visit our main website, you'll still find the Generation 8 criteria documents as default. So the Generation 9 criteria are still a bit hidden before we come to the launch event. So with that, I'd like to hand over to my colleague Andreas Nobel, who will take us through the first chapters of TCO Certified Generation 9.
Thank you, Martin. So now let's go through all the chapters in TCO Certified Generation 9, and we'll start out with the first three ones, which is connected to material sourcing and the manufacturing phase, and I'll jump straight into chapter 1. So chapter 1 is about product and sustainability information, and here we have revised 3 criteria, and I'll go through them one by one. So first out is information to end users, which has been revised. And we have done this revision to make it easier to identify certified products as a purchaser. And we've done so by adding an additional point in the mandate, which says TCO certified must be mentioned on the brand owner's website where the specific certified product is marketed or sold. And this should be represented in text, that is TCO certified, and it can be on the product page, or it should be represented in a separate document if the separate document is linked from the specific product page. And this could be, for example, a product PDF. So this is the revision of 1.1. Then we have 1.2, product specification, which is also revised. And here we have made a clarification to the total weight that should be reported. And now we're stating that the typical product configuration and power supply without packaging in kilos must be reported, and this is applicable for all product categories. And the definition then of the typical product configuration, that is defined as the product configuration which is expected to be manufactured in the largest number. And this is so that we're hitting home with the most number of products that the buyers do actually purchase. Looking at the key changes then between draft 2 and the final version, we changed the weight threshold from plus minus 5% for the tolerance to plus minus 10%. And this is due to that heavily configurable products use different component manufacturers, making it hard to be within plus minus 5%. And that's why we increased the weight tolerance. And as I said before, we added clarifications on what is the total weight, and that is what it should include. And the total weight then includes the product and any power supply unit and power cable needed to power the device. So this is what's in scope of the total weight. So next up is 1.3, sustainability performance indicators, which has also been revised. So 1.3 today serves as a foundation for the development of future generations of TCO certified and has done so since generation 8. What we have done now with this revision is that we have increased this chapter to include a lot more of these SPIs. And this is so we can provide the purchasers with important sustainability information on these certified products. But it's also so we can enable more comparability between certified Generation 9 products in our upcoming future benchmarking system that we're working on. And for this chapter, we have categorized these SPIs into 3 different categories. The X, which are the ones that will always be collected during the annual reporting. As an example is the SAQ, the self-assessment questionnaire. Then we have the Ys, which is the ones that are always collected during the product testing or the review of the product. And on top of this, we have this set category, which is optional SPIs that you as a brand owner can choose to report on if you want to gain extra points for this upcoming benchmarking system. And the key changes then between draft 2 and the final document is that we have added 3 new SPIs, and you can read more about the information on these if you go to the respective chapters. So there you have 6.1, classification of public repair policies. We have the classification of extended warranty availability, and then we have 8.2, which is about the ratio of compensated versus manufactured products. And then we removed a couple of SPIs due to lack of feedback on these. So we were not confident enough to include these in this generation of TCO Certified, but we will continue looking at these. So we will be able to include them in either a future revision of the criteria document or in the next generation of TCO Certified. And with that, I would like to hand over to my colleague Steve, which will go through chapter 2.
Thank you, Andreas. Chapter 2 covers criteria for socially responsible manufacturing. And the revised requirements I'm covering in my presentation are supply chain responsibility, anti-bribery management system, responsibly sourced minerals, and process chemical management. The revisions to the supply chain responsibility mandate create stricter requirements on audits and improve brand owner awareness and responsibility of suppliers beyond final assembly factories. Firstly, the approved types accepted as proof of independent audits conducted at final assembly factories are RBA VAP and S8000. This is to increase the quality of the audit verification process and the certainty the audit covers the whole factory under one business license. Another important revision to this mandate is that each final assembly factory of certified products must submit the TCO Certified Supply Chain Identification Template. The information required in the template covers the final assembly factory's next tier major suppliers of parts and packaging to the certified product. The template will help us risk assess how final assembly factories manage their social responsible programs toward major suppliers of the certified product. The template can be downloaded from the TCO Certified webpage before June 15th. Additionally to submitting the template, we require independent verification that an approved code of conduct is communicated to the next tier major suppliers, and that there is a process to ensure that they are working in a structured way to follow the code. Proof of compliance is covered in both the RBA VAP and S8000 audit programs when the factory proves a compliant management system. Another new addition to this requirement is the independent verification of the worker management dialogue that can exist at the factory. This means that the trade union or non-union worker representation available at registered factories are now given the chance to have this level of representation independently verified. The idea is to provide factories that either have a democratically functioning trade union or other credible form of worker representation, which can be necessary for countries that restrict democratic unions, this unique chance to have these independently verified. For TCO Certified Generation 9, this is the introduction of an optional tool for factories looking to improve their risk category status on TCO Certified Accepted Factory List. Verification of compliance covers major key points through a questionnaire that's been developed in collaboration between TCO Development and a Swedish trade union to ascertain a well-functioning worker engagement that helps to improve working conditions. These key points and the method by which the factory must prove compliance are given in the mandate's clarification section of the criteria document. Anti-bribery management system. TCO Certified requires independent assessments of how brand owners manage the potential for corruption in the businesses and that their management systems are in line with established guidelines. So brand owners that are presently certifying products to TCO Certified Generation 8 have all proven compliance with the International Chamber of Commerce guidelines for anti-corruption and whistleblowing. TCO Certified Generation 9, this mandate has become stricter since brand owners must independently now assess their anti-bribery management system, and that it is based on the ISO 37001 standard. Proof of compliance is by the brand owner either submitting an ISO 37001 certificate or by completing the TCO Certified Anti-bribery questionnaire. That includes a review of documented proof and an interview between the brand owner responsible person and an approved independent verifier. Responsibly sourced minerals mandate. So this mandate is revised to continue the work we started back in 2015 for wider engagement by brand owners in programs considered to improve due diligence and human rights in the mineral supply chains of certified products. Brand owners have now worked with due diligence for many years to identify smelters and refiners in their supply chains. For TCO Certified Generation 9, brand owners are now required to submit details and knowledge on these facilities, and that these are not just addresses on a website, but that due diligence has continued into the facilities management systems. For this, brand owners must complete and submit the new Responsibly Sourced Minerals template. As we've done with increasing engagement with in-region programs that support local mining communities, this revision will work to improve awareness and engagement in programs that independently validate management systems of smelters and refiners, and that these are in line with the OECD due diligence guidance. We're also required to know how much the brand owner understands about the source of the minerals, if it comes from recycled or scrap, if they're sourced from outside known conflict-affected high-risk areas, or which facilities are certified or in the process of being certified to either the Responsible Minerals Assurance process or published on the European Commission whitelist of global smelters and refiners which source responsibly. The new Responsibly Sourced Minerals template can be downloaded from the TCO Certified webpage before June 15th. The mandate on processed chemicals. TCO development for some years has mandated the collection and verification on the types of chemicals being used at factories manufacturing certified products, verifying also the type of training and protective equipment workers were provided whilst exposed to these chemicals. The data showed us that workers and the environment were at risk of exposure to many chemicals of known and unknown hazards, and that very few of them were actually known to be safer alternatives. For TCO Certified Generation 9, we will continue to gather this process chemical data, but what's different is that we now have a list of independently assessed safer alternatives to those known or unknown as hazardous chemicals. And this list has been made or added to our public TCO Certified Accepted Substance list. And the list is now available on tcocertified.com. This now means that all relevant cleaning products in scope of the mandate can only contain chemicals that appear on the ASL. The scope of the requirement means that all final assembly factory production lines of TCO Certified Generation 9 products must only use accepted listed chemicals, and the production process in scope are those that clean the product and the printed circuit board cleaning, where these occur. So to add or keep a chemical on the TCO Certified ASL, it must be independently assessed by a licensed green screen profiler and achieve a green screen benchmark of 2, 3, or 4. You'll see that chemical ingredients are listed on the ASL as CI. The chemical cleaning product is a mixture or a formulation of more than one chemical. Therefore, an alternative to benchmarking cleaning ingredients is that we will also accept chemical products that have been assessed and certified in accordance to Green Screen Certified and ranked as either gold or platinum compliance. On their ASL, these certified chemical products will be listed as CP, and their trade name and not the CAS number will be stated. The benefit of a public list chemical is that suppliers can even confirm to the manufacturer using their chemicals that the cleaning products only contain ingredients that appear on the ASL with approved benchmark scores. Alternatively, a manufacturer can confirm that their chemical product appears on the ASL and with an approved rating of gold or platinum. Gold and platinum verifies the chemical product only contains ingredients that are green screen benchmark 2 or higher. If manufacturers or chemical suppliers find a chemical the use is not on the ASL and isn't benchmarked or certified, then a transition period of up to 12 months to comply allows manufacturers time to have the chemical assessed, or otherwise the user time to replace this chemical with an already accepted listed chemical. Finally, for this mandate, on the subject of environmental health and safety management systems, we are requiring that final assembly factories of certified products must become certified to the ISO 45001 standard and submit the valid certificate to an approved verifier. We will accept applications for a 24-month transition period for any factory not presently certified to this standard to become certified once they are registered as manufacturing TCO Certified Generation 9 products on TCO Certified portal. And now over to Victor.
Thank you very much, Steve. All right, so let's jump into chapter 3 and the criteria connected to environmentally sustainable manufacturing. So we're going to look at these 4 points. The first one is for 3.2 energy efficiency indicators. So the submissions are now modified to cover the total energy consumed by the factory, the percentage of renewable energy consumed by the factory, and the energy improvements compared to the previous year. But the submission date is the same. It's the end of August, like in Generation 8. The next one, 3.3, energy management system. So in TCO Certified Generation 9, we are requiring that all final assembly factories achieve ISO 50001 certification. And the reasoning for this is that we want to include the energy efficiency aspects of the manufacturing and not only to look into the use phase of the products. So starting with this generation, we will focus on the final assembly factories with a goal of going further up the supply chain and increasing energy efficiency in future generations. We are giving all factories 24 months time to implement ISO 50001, as we know that the process can be time consuming for factories that previously haven't had any energy management system. And for 3.4, post-consumer recycled content. With the post-consumer recycled content materials criterion, we are looking to strengthen our position on post-consumer recycled materials in TCO certified products. The goal with the criterion is to provide a more fair and accurate picture of the amount of post-consumer recycled content in the product. We want to make it easier to identify the relevance of the percentage of post-consumer recycled plastics in products, and this will be achieved by measuring the total weight of all plastic parts and the weight of post-consumer recycled plastic parts. And we also hope to see manufacturers working on identifying other non-plastic post-consumer recycled materials, which are being used in the products. So the mandate will require reporting on percentage of post-consumer recycled plastics by weight versus the total weight of all plastics, as well as percentage of identified post-consumer recycled materials by weight versus the product weight. And for 3.5, we have the criterion product carbon footprint. This criterion is a sustainability performance indicator that uses a classification system for product carbon footprints of IT products. So the criterion is intended to identify which methods and data are used for estimating the product carbon footprints of the product, and also to evaluate the availability of these. The criterion encourages the more comprehensive PCFs in order to drive data gathering and identification of hotspots in the life cycle of IT products in order to establish better and more comparable product carbon footprint measurements in the future. So the criterion results in a classification of the product for the PCF method used, age of data used, and the availability of the product carbon footprint. And if no product carbon footprint has been conducted, the product will receive the lowest classification. So it is therefore not required to have conducted a PCF, but with the future use of a benchmarking system, it will be highly encouraged. It is our long-term goal to be able to provide purchaser with reliable comparative data for the PCF on certified products. And this is the first step for us to gather the methods used by the industry and promote those who are doing more to map the environmental impacts of their products. And the key changes from draft 2 to the final version is that we did tweak the classifications for the method, data age, and availability. And we also added ISO 14025 environmental labels and declaration as an additional submission possibility. So let's continue now then with chapter 4, user health and safety. Here we have 2 changes from generation 8. The first one is electrical safety, which has been revised. So what we have done is that we have updated the standards referenced for the electrical safety, where EN IEC 62368-1 edition 2 replaces the EN IEC 6950 and EN IEC 665, as these are now withdrawn. So for generation 9, we have this updated standard. So for the next criteria, we have in the notebooks category, we have criteria for keyboard on key displacement and key resistance. And this criteria has been removed for TCO Certified Generation 9 as TCO development feels that the industry standards already manages this, and there's no need to keep the criteria in the documents. Next up, we have chapter 5 and product performance. First up, we have performance benchmarking, which was present in the previous drafts of generation 9, but this has now been removed, so it is not a part of the final document. And for the headsets, we have removed 2 criteria, one for headband flex test and one for microphone attachment flex. And the last change in this chapter is for the energy efficiency, where we have revised the required versions. So for all the energy efficiency criteria that are aligned with Energy Star, we have updated the minimum version requirements to the following versions that can be seen on this slide. And for product categories that have newer versions than those on the slide, the product may be tested towards these newer versions of Energy Star. And as a result, the version tested will be visible on our product finder. And as in the previous generations of TCO Certified, the product is not required to be Energy Star certified. They only need to meet the requirements as specified by the standard. We've also included for products sold in the EU that the energy efficiency index must be reported. And now I'm going to hand over to Stefan, who will talk about chapter 6.
Thank you, Victor, for your part of the presentation. And I'm gonna continue with chapter 6, product lifetime extension. We have product warranty, replaceable components, product durability, battery longevity, battery replaceability, battery information and protection, secure data removal from products, and a standardized external power supply. As you can see, we have 2 new criterions for generation 9, and the rest of the criteria has been revised from generation 8. The first criteria is product warranty. The brand owner must provide a product warranty for at least 1 year and provide information about the minimum product warranty period for that product, covering all markets where the product is sold. So from generation 8 to generation 9, we have added the second point here to provide information about the minimum warranty period for the product, covering all markets where the product is sold. And we have also added 2 SPIs for this criterion. The first one is warranty period, and the other one is extended warranty availability. Key changes from draft 2 to final. There are some minor in this criteria. We updated the classifications from the two SPIs from A to C, and now they are from A to G instead. And we also changed the name for one of the SPIs. The old name was Service Agreement Availability, and now the name is Extended Warranty Availability from class A to G. So those were the changes for product warranty. The next criteria is replaceable components. From generation 8 to generation 9, we have added new product categories, servers, storage, network equipment. We added a clarification on headband cushions for headset categories, and we added 4 SPIs, as you can see here. Fasteners and connectors, necessary tools for repair and upgrade, availability of spare parts, and comprehensiveness of available information. The verification for the replaceable components SPIs are performed through the service manual that the brand owners have, and the evaluation is based on the new standard EN 4554. Some of the major changes between generation 8 and 9 is that we moved all the critical replaceable components from server, storage, and network equipment to form one criterion instead of having plenty different. So we have now all the different product categories under the same criteria with the replaceable components. We added CPU as a critical replaceable component for all-in-one products, and we added optional SPIs for evaluations, as I talked about in the previous slide. Without documentation, the product will get the lowest classification as a default. So for brand owners that doesn't want to evaluate the 4 SPIs that we have added, they will receive the lowest classification as default. The key changes between the draft 2 and final, there are some minor. We updated the critical replaceable components for displays. Before in draft 2 they were mandatory, and now they are optional. And the parts that we are talking about is system board, motherboard, and the display panel assembly. We also changed all the SPIs from mandatory to optional, as you can see the SPIs here again once more. So now the brand owners, they need to show that I would like to evaluate those SPIs, and then we will look on them. Otherwise, there's default lowest classification. And then we have standardized connectors. It's a revised criteria from generation 8. The device must carry at least one USB Type-C connector that is backward compatible with USB 2. Here we have removed smartphones, headsets, and tablets from applicability. And in generation 8, we had an option to send a USB Type-C female adapter together with the product, but this is not possible anymore in generation 9. And products with no connectors are as a whole exempted from these criterions. And then we have product durability. The definitions has been updated. So this criteria for generation 8 is basically the same. We have only refreshed it with all the standards being up to date. So there's no big deals for product durability in generation 9. And the applicability is for notebooks, smartphones, and tablets. And then we have battery longevity. Also a revision from generation 8. But here we have done quite a lot. So we added one SPI for optimum battery performance for an office user in years. We increased the minimum requirement from 60% to 80% of SOC of the rated capacity after 300 cycles. So it's the same procedure where you cycle the battery, but the minimum requirement is much higher now. And we added some new tests from the standard. The 2 of them is measurement of internal AC/DC resistance before and after 300 cycles. And that the brand owner must also send in an Excel data sheet with all the cycles that they have been testing together with the battery test. We have also included a new estimation methodology for battery time in years. Those were the major changes between generation 8 and 9. So the key changes between the final draft is that we have updated and clarified that the internal AC and DC resistance test need to be performed before the cycle test and after the cycle test. And the estimation of more battery cycles calculated now with Coulombic efficiency extrapolation is in place, and the verification organizations will be able to use the new template, the battery estimation template. It will be available for download on our webpage, where they can calculate the estimated extra battery cycles from the battery reports. And we have also revised back to look for rated capacity instead of initial capacity that we had in draft 2 for the cycle test. And then we have battery replaceability. This battery has, the mandate is the same as it was in generation 8, but we have added clarifications on earbuds and earphones that are exempted for the headset category. And we also have added one SPI. It's called tool-less battery replacement. Otherwise, it's the same as it was in generation 8. Battery information and protection. This is a totally new criteria for generation 9, where the brand owner must provide battery protection software that can lower the maximum battery charge level to at least 80%. It must be pre-installed on the product, and we have decided now for the final document that Chrome OS products are excluded from this point in the mandate. The other point is that the brand owner must provide a software that can determine and monitor the following and display the data for the user. So it's state of charge, state of health, the number of full charging cycles that the battery has gone through. So this must be visible for the user that are using the certified product. The key changes from draft 2 to final was that we added this Chrome OS products excluded from point 1 in the mandate. Otherwise, it's the same. So the next criteria I'm going to talk about is secure data removal from products. This has been revised from generation 8, where we had only 3 different options to fulfill the mandate. And now we have added option 4, 5, and 6. So to be able to provide a remote secure data removal service upon request, free of charge, providing an on-site secure data removal service upon request, free of charge, or pre-installed data encryption technologies that allow for erasure or removal of the encryption keys. On top of this, we have also added 2 SPIs. The first one is media sanitation solution, classification A to B. The other one is compliance with EN 4554, data management, classification A to B. And then we have standardized external power supply compatibility. This is also a new criteria for generation 9. Where the product must carry USB Type-C standardized receptacle port for USB power delivery according to the standard IEC 63002 or newer. Or the product must have built-in wireless charging capability that complies with QY wireless power transfer systems. We have also added SPIs to this criteria. The first one is type of standardized external power supply distributed with the product. And the other one is lifetime extension of chargers. And those were all the slides that I have. And now I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Stephen Fuller. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stefan. So here I'll be talking about the revisions for the reduction of hazardous substances. This slide covers 2 separate mandates. One is our restrictions on halogenated substances, and the other covers the non-halogenated substances on our public TCO Certified accepted substance list. We have for many years restricted the use of halogenated substances from the product housing parts over the threshold of weight of 25 grams, whilst giving exemptions to plastic parts under 25 grams, printed circuit boards, cables, and electronic components. We've also, since 2015, guided industry to what these restricted substances must be replaced with, using our public TCO Certified accepted substance list, the ASL, that lists independently assessed safer alternatives. The revision in TCO Certified Generation 9 now requires that product housing parts above 0.5 grams and the power supply printed circuit board laminate must only use non-halogenated flame retardants or plasticizers that have alternatives shown or appear on the TCO Certified Accepted Substance List. We've noted an error in the latest released criteria documents, Mandate 7.3, about the scope of this requirement. What's presently written in the document isn't correct, and the actual scope of the mandate should say it's limited to product housing over 0.5 grams and the power supply PCB only, as I've just now presented. We are presently gathering information on other necessary corrections and will have the most correct version readily available for applications by June 15th. Finally, for this revised mandate, an additional verification on the restriction of halogenated substances is added to the Halogens Mandate 7.2. It's now required that the largest power supply PCB be tested for the presence of halogens, bromine and chlorine by an ISO 17025 test laboratory in accordance to one of the three options shown in this slide. And now back to Andreas.
Thank you, Steve. So over to chapter 8 then, material recovery. In this chapter, we have revised some criteria, removed some criteria, but also added some. And first out is the product packaging. So here we the changes that have been done between draft 2 and the final document is that we actually removed the 3 suggested SPIs we had on draft. And the result of this is that now the criterion is the same as it were in generation 8. So there you have no changes done in comparison to generation 8 anymore. So next up is the take-back system, which were present in generation 8. This criterion has been removed in favor for our new e-waste management criterion. And this new criterion 8.2, it is laying the foundation for our e-waste neutral vision that we have within TCO Certified. So in future generations of TCO Certified, we want the brand owners to take back the same volume of products as they manufacture and that they process as many as possible of these products for reuse and then recycling. In a responsible way. But in order to do so, we need to start somewhere, and this is the start by collecting information. So the first point that needs to be reported on annually by the end of August is the number of certified products manufactured. The second point is all countries the certified products were sold in. The third point is the name of the take-back system or extended producer responsibility schemes used for each country. And the fourth point is the name and addresses of the reuse and recycling facilities that do process these collected products together with different types of standards that they meet, such as the R2 standard, the e-stewards, the EN 50625 or equivalent. And the idea here is then in generation 10, we will most likely set minimum levels for the different facilities processing these products, but also on how much take back that should take place for certified products. We've also added 3 SPIs to this criterion. And the first one is that we want to track the membership in multi-stakeholder initiatives working towards solving the problems connected to e-waste. So you can read up on this if you go into the criterion. Then you have the use of international accredited reuse and recycling facilities. And then last but not least, we have the ratio of compensated versus manufactured products. And this last one, I'll spend a few more seconds to talk about. And it is a way for us to provide a way for brand owners to be in compliance with other levels than just the 100% e-waste compensated level that we do have in our TCO Certified Edge e-waste compensated program. So here you as a brand owner will be able to score from class G to class A depending on how much you compensate for compared to how much you put on the market for certified products. And this is a way for us to basically show if you're doing more in the compensation space. Then the key changes between draft 2 and the final document. Well, we renamed this criterion from e-waste compensation to e-waste management to better reflect our vision and what we're actually trying to do here. We removed one SPI, which was the brand owner public policy for treatment of electronics. This is still a SPI that we're looking at, but we haven't finished the fine details for it yet, so we had to remove it. And then, as I just said, we added one SPI, which was the ratio of compensated versus manufactured products. Then if we move on, we come to 8.3, which is material coating of plastics. We've been looking at this criteria for quite some while, and we've seen that there is very limited sustainability benefits for smaller devices. So based on this knowledge, looking at the recycling industry, that they do not take apart these small devices and put the plastics in the different bins, they just go down through a crusher. We remove this criterion for notebooks, tablets, smartphones, and headsets. But for the larger product categories, we did not change this criteria. Then if we segue into chapter 11, which is forms and signatures, this has been revised and it's been updated to reflect the new and the revised criteria in generation 9. So you will find them in there. And now we've also included all the non-mandatory SPIs in the forms and signatures. So it is easy and transparent for you to see what's needed of you as a brand owner if you want to score higher compared to the default, the lowest classification for the optional SPIs, the ones that are marked with category set. The key changes between draft 2 and the final document for forms and signatures. So what we did here was that we reverted back to the old forms and signatures from our previously suggested application documents. So now we did this based on the feedback from the brand owners and the verification organizations, and we listened to you that you wanted it as it were. So we reverted back to that. And with that, I want to hand over to Martin. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Andreas. And now I'd like to ask my colleagues in Sweden to turn on your webcams and your microphones, because we're going to head into the Q&A session. And we have been receiving quite a lot of questions during this presentation, so that's great. We have a lot of questions to go through. Well, either it shows that there's a great interest, or we haven't been very clear in our presentations, perhaps. All right, let's go through these. Hang on a second. Okay, first question, and I think I'll ask this one to Steve. The process chemicals should meet the requirement of the list on the TCO Certified website, and there is no need to meet the green screen benchmark. Steve, maybe you can elaborate on that.
Sure. So only chemical products then being used to clean the certified products, but not those that don't appear on the TCO Certified ASL, need to be green screen assessed. They need to go for assessment to be added to the ASL. So if you're using a chemical that you don't see is on the ASL, you need to have that green screen to be added to the list. But it's usually the situation is that we've identified quite a few of the most popular processed chemical ingredients. So there's a very good chance that the chemical that you are using has already been assessed and appears on the ASL. But go to the list and check and which chemicals you're using on TCO certified production lines to see if that chemical is being used. And we will, of course, as I said, give that 12-month period to either have time to assess the chemicals you're using to be added to the list, or to replace those chemicals with one that is already on the list.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you, Steve. Next question, which is about the timeline. According to the timeline, the date of November 17 is for early Generation 9 qualification for TCO Certified. The actual deadline of applying for Generation 8 or Generation 9, I would guess the person means, is 1st of December, right? Andreas? Maybe you can answer this one.
Yeah, maybe I can answer it in some other words. So we've set the deadline to the 17th of November for applications if you want to partake in the launch on December 1st. If you want to be absolutely sure you will be able to be on stage showing off that you fulfill Generation 9, we will need your applications by the 17th of November to be able to promise you that we will have the time needed to process your application. But of course, we will do everything within our power to process any application that comes in after the 17th of November. But that is the deadline if you want to be able to know that you will be on stage on the 1st of December on the launch date. And regarding Generation 8 certificates, you will be able to apply for Generation 8 up until the 1st, because that's when we launch Generation 9. So when we launch Generation 9 on the 1st, you will no longer be able to apply for Generation 8. So that's also a very important date.
Yeah, but that applies to new products though, for already existing.
Yeah, so you will be able to update and prolong already existing Generation 8 certificates for 2 years after we launch Generation 9.
Yes, okay, I hope that's clear. Yeah, we want to avoid a situation where all the applications arrive just before December 1st. That will be an impossible situation for us to handle. Yep. And when we talk about being up on stage, of course, this time it's not digital. A physical stage; it will be a digital stage, and we don't know exactly how to solve that, but we are thinking about. We will figure it out. Yeah, for sure. All right, next question regarding criterion 3.4.2. So this is something that I'd like to ask Victor. 3.4.2 mentions to provide any proof from the vendor to the verifier. Do we have to submit it together with the PCR template?
Yeah, sure. So so the PCR template that's uploaded on the certification documents on the Generation 9 development page, it's actually more of a guideline document to show what information is required to be reported on. So if you're using some other sort of method for reporting this, you don't have to use the template. But if you are using the template, yes, then you will also need to submit the additional proof together with the template.
Okay. All right, Victor, please keep your microphone open because I have the next question for you as well. Do final assembly factories have to be assessed for all items marked Z, or does it depend on the brand owner's requests?
Yeah, sure. So
we're talking about SPIs here.
The SPIs, I assume. Yeah, of course. Yeah, so as Andreas mentioned earlier, all the SPIs marked with the Z they require additional information in order to be evaluated and receive a higher classification than the lowest, and that will be up to the brand owner in the application of a product. So for the final assembly factories, I mean, yes, it is up to the brand owner's request if they are to be submit additional information and be further evaluated.
All right. Yeah, Victor, please accept one more question.
Yeah.
For the next question is about the PCR template. Do we have to use TCO Development's templates, or can the brand owner use the PCR template from EPEAT to submit?
Yeah, so I think this kind of kind of goes into the last question. I mean, as long as the information as required in the criterion and in the PCR template, as long as that information is included in any way or form, you don't have to use the PCR template. So I'm not 100% sure how the EP template looks like, but you will have to evaluate if it matches what is requested in the criterion and in the template as provided by us.
All right, thank you, Victor. I'm gonna give the next question to someone else. Before applying for TCO Certified Generation 9, is the brand required to update and finish the annual SMR interview, I would assume, for those new criteria? Maybe you can answer that one, Steve.
Yeah, so the interviews would continue with TCO Certified Generation 8 until the launch of TCO Certified Generation 9. So this year, the SAQ, the annual interview with the self-assessment questionnaire, will continue to use that template on the Generation 8.
Okay, thank you. Next question. May I know if the information to end user document is the same as the one for Generation 8, or is there a new version? Andreas?
Yeah, no, it will be the same since it doesn't mention anything about generations. It's a general document that's basically explains what we're trying to achieve with TCO Certified, so this will not be updated for Generation 9.
Okay, all right.
But it could be if you have some really clever ideas that you want to add that we have missed. Please do bring these ideas to us and then we'll look at it. But we do not have any plans to do so ourselves at this point of time.
Okay. Okay, next question. When will TCO Certified Generation 8 certificates up? I'm sorry, I'm not really sure how to interpret this question, so I'll just read what it says. When will TCO Certified 8.0 certificate update lasted for a mass production with TCO 8.0 certified?
All right, so maybe I can take that. As I interpret this question, I think what they're asking is when can they update the Generation 8 certificates? Or maybe when can they apply for Generation 8 certificates? What's the latest date? And to apply for Generation 8, as I said before, that will be on December 1st of 2021. But then you will be able to update existing Generation 8 certificates for 2 additional years after that date. So that would be effectively up until December 1st of 2023.
Yeah, and that's the same pattern that we have followed recently for generation changes.
Yep.
So it's nothing new really. The ISO 50001 certification should be complete within 24 months from, is that counted from June or December? Victor, maybe you can talk about that.
Yeah, so the 24 months period will start together with the launch of Generation 9. So that will be from December and not from June. So 24 months from December.
Okay, clear enough. All right. Next one is about supply chain responsibility. Part 2, supply chain responsibility. TCO development may annually select a factory from the list of major tier suppliers it identifies as higher risk to submit one or more of the following. How to define high risk? Steve, maybe you can talk about that.
Yeah. So the requirement, in the template, it's data covering, and it gives an indication to us the situation of the final assembly factory's management system towards suppliers, and that supplier's impact on either human risks, down to the number of employees. Perhaps it's a more manual production instead of an automated production, perhaps. Towards human rights violations, or if it's a more automated production, maybe there's more of an environmental impact. For example, if we give if we receive a template that has many data gaps, for example, then this will increase, of course, the risk assessment, the risk of the factory or that supplier. Or if that sub-tier supplier hasn't had audits before, or isn't a part of a certification process, perhaps, of it doesn't even have ISO 14001, for example. These are the kind of indicators we'll be looking for. These data gaps, or the fact that there's a high number of employees, there's a high number of automation with environmental impact, or they're not involved in any kind of standard certification, for example. And those are examples that we're looking at.
All right. Okay, thank you. So, Steve, another question about definitions here. How to define major next tier supplier?
Yeah, so these are points that are covered in, I said before that we're restricting to RBA VAP and S8000. So these two systems already have a control point within that certification to check how the final assembly factory is working with major identified major tier suppliers. So if you look at the RBA VAP questionnaire, or the points in the RBA VAP, these points are covered in E12.1 and E12.2, and that's where we're looking at to assess how the final assembly factory is identifying the major risk, sub-tier suppliers, and how they're working to follow up the implementation of, an accepted code of conduct. So look at those 2 points.
Okay. All right. The next question, I feel we have already kind of answered that one, but just to make sure that everyone is on board here, maybe we should explain one more time. I'll read it out loud here. If we still want to apply for TCO Certified Generation 8 because product design cannot meet Generation 9 at this time, when is the deadline? So, Andreas, a bit repetitive perhaps, but
that's good. Yeah, I think that's good. So the deadline is on December 1st, 2021, if you want to apply for Generation 8 certificates.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, next question. How is the default lowest classification showed on the certificate? Will this be used to score products for comparison?
I think that's for Victor.
Yeah. I'm not sure I fully understand the question, but maybe Victor.
Yeah, sorry, can you repeat?
Sure, of course. How is the default lowest classification showed on the certificate? Will this be used to score products for comparison?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is connected to which criteria.
I guess it has to do with the SPIs and the classification system for that.
All right. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I think we had a similar question as well, but basically, I mean, we are currently we have some multiple usages of this new SPIs and the classification system. So we are hard working on presenting the first version of this for brand owners during this autumn, where we will have a more clear path on how these will be used. So for now, I can't say that much. We won't really. I mean, it doesn't give that impression right now that this is something that you want to do. But if you wait until autumn, we will give you more information on this.
Okay. All right. So next question.
And maybe one thing connected to that. So I just want to add that if you want to update the optional SPIs, the ones marked with said, you will be able to do so free of charge from our perspective. We will not charge you if you come in with updates on the SPIs after you have submitted a product for certification for Generation 9. So this is also to incentivize that you actually do come in with additional information over time as you collect it to update these SPIs.
Okay, yeah, good comment, Andreas. Okay, next question. For 5.1, still need to obtain ISO 17025 laboratory report for some configurations that can meet the minimum version of Energy Star, even though most of the configurations can meet the latest version of Energy Star. Okay, Victor, maybe you can comment on that.
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, in this case, it depends on the marketing of the product. What we are looking for is that for all certified products, the product configurations must meet, you know, the requirements in TCO Certified. So, if you have, for example, a desktop computer and 80% of the configurations for that product is able to meet, let's say, Energy Star 8. But you still have 20% of the configurations which are not able to meet Energy Star version 8, then we can't state that the whole product configuration is able under that sales name or marketing name is able to meet Energy Star 8. So that's why you will have to test. You will have to revert to the minimum version as required in TCO Certified and prove that all configurations are able to meet that level. So in short, yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, next question is about 2.4, criterion 2.4. Could you illustrate that chapter or criterion 2.4 EU whitelist, the current situation with the EU whitelist? I heard from our CSR team that the EU is still discussing with RBA for the whitelist details. This sounds like a question for Steve.
Yeah, it is. No, I don't have more information than what I had just over a month ago. Was that the latest update was that you know, this list would be ready during 2021, but perhaps there are some delays, you know, because of the situation with disruptions around the pandemic about getting this list up. But this was the information I had just over a month ago.
Okay.
But I still don't have a set date for that when it's going to happen.
All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Next question regarding 6.5. We plan to use existing. So this is about battery testing. We plan to use existing cycle test reports prepared for Generation 8, but the Generation 9 final version requests 2 resistance measurements before and after the cyclic test. Do we have to redo all the cycle tests for the resistance measurements? Is there any way to avoid the retesting? Stefan, maybe you can answer this one.
Yes. Thank you, Martin, and thank you for the question. So for Generation 9, we will not have you do retest for the battery tests. So if you want to do an upgrade on Generation 8 certificate, you can use the old IEC 61960 test report for that. And the new test for Generation 9 will be for new batteries. So when we have launched Generation 9 and you come in with a new certificate for Generation 9, then you have need to apply for all the tests in the new standard.
Yeah, and I know there are, as I said before, quite a lot of questions that are related to upgrading products from Generation 8 to Generation 9. So just want to mention again that we are working on a document that is going to explain a bit the process when you want to upgrade products from 8 to 9. All right, next question. We have received quite a lot of questions, so I thought, I was thinking that 2 hours was way too much, but we'll see. Okay, so regarding 7.3, looks electronic component includes hard drive, solid state drive, and ODD. how about memories? For example, DIMM.
Yeah, so this is perhaps the confusion with the present written text in the mandate 7.3, but the focus is now limited to product housing, plastic parts above 0.5 grams, and the power supply unit printed circuit board. So all other components, electronic components, other PCBs that aren't included in this scope now are exempted. So the list of electronic components that you mentioned here, the HDD, SDD, ODD, they continue to be exempted for TCO Certified Generation 9.
All right, yeah, that's good. And yeah, as mentioned, we are going to release a second edition with some corrected wording in during next week. Okay, so next question regarding 8.2.1 mandate item number 3. WEEE is name of the take back system, right? Sorry, I haven't had time to read through these, so I'm just reading as I see them.
Do so. I'll try to interpret.
Does the country of sale have to have take back system or EPR?
Yeah, okay, I can take that one, and I can continue the question because I can also see it. So, no, all the countries where you put the products on do not need to have a take-back system or EPR scheme. As I explained in the presentation, the first step is for us to collect information about the coverage on a global scale for all the brand owners that currently do certify their products according to TCO Certified. So you only need to report where do you place your products, if you have, if this country is covered by a take-back system or not. If so, which different standards does these take-back systems or which are they certified against? So that's basically it. And this is part of our, as I said, the e-waste neutral vision that we have inside of TCO Certified. So for generation 10, we're looking at adding, for example, minimum levels on the coverage of take-back systems. Maybe also levels on which types of certificates that these take-back or recycling companies should hold, like the EN 50625 or the R2 standards, etc. So that work will be done up until generation 10. So this is purely a reporting criterion as of now. So you do not need to have all the countries covered with EPR systems.
Okay.
Or EPR schemes. Yeah.
Okay. So the next question is quite long. I'll read through it here. It's about 7.2 halogens. The largest PCB by area in the power supply unit must be tested for bromine and chlorine. The PCB must be tested in its final state with PCB laminates included, but does not need to be tested with electrical components attached. So here we come to the question. Can we use PCB testing report by material components to submit for application? Those material is the same as the final state with PCB laminates. Do you understand the question, Victor, Steve?
I think that's for Victor, right?
Yeah. I think that this sounds like a kind of a special case. What we have written in the criteria is that we want to be able to make sure that we have traceability between what is tested and what is actually put into the PCB. So I think that this kind of sounds like we will have to investigate. So I would suggest contact us and we will see if this can be a possibility or not. But as the criteria says, you are able to if you are able to trace the usage of a PCB into, for example, multiple EPSs, then you can use one test report in order to provided for multiple EPSs or IPSs. But I would suggest that you contact us for this question, and we will try to solve it with you.
Yeah, and if you, in general, if you feel that we have misinterpreted your question, of course, feel free to reach out to us. Yeah, and if you have any types of questions, of course, just send them to us and we'll reply. Okay, let's move on. 7.3, non-halogenated substances. As I said, it will, as Martin said, it will change to Power PCB in the updated version. Yes, the second edition. Shall we assume Power PCB is internal power board and external adapter power board for display products? Steve, interpretation question.
Okay, so the Power PCBs for displays, and this is either an internal or external part. So depending on the setup of that display. So if it's an external adapter, then the power board is there, and that's where we're focusing. If it's an internal power supply, then of course the power PCB that we're focusing on is internal in the product. So both are in scope of the mandate 7.3 and 7.2.
All right. Okay. Okay. Next question regarding to item of between item 1.3 and 2.1 on anti-bribery SAQ. An independent governing body is internal member. Is that okay? Is it okay to use an internal member as the government in the government governing body? Steve.
I don't really understand the question clearly. Could the sender write to me so that we can go through that question? Send me an email with that question so we can go through it and clear up, because I'm not quite sure.
All right. Yeah.
What the asker's meaning there.
Yes. As I explained here, the questions keep coming in so quickly that I don't have time to edit them. I just read them, and sometimes they're a bit hard to interpret. Okay, next question regarding to item 10.1 on anti-bribery SAQ is if there is no non-conformity, there is no root cause. In this case, we write no non-conformity and the result is green. Is that correct, Steve?
Yeah, that's another point. I think it'd be easier to have an email from the asker so that we can go through that questionnaire point. But the way the questions are set up now, there should be a minimum of at least a yellow grading. Yellow to green. There is only one item, I think, that is acceptable to be red, and that's the last question in the list. So I have to have that questionnaire in front of me, and then we can go through that point. But perhaps it is 10.1 that we accept as a red scoring. But I don't have the questionnaire in front of me at the moment.
Okay. Yes. So please get back to us, and we'll answer your questions. Okay, regarding 8.2.1, mandate item 4, does the reuse and recycling facility have to have standards, for example, R2, E-stewards, EN 50625 or equivalent?
No,
Andreas, maybe you can.
I think I already answered this, but no, they do not need to have them in generation 9. You only need to report which ones they currently hold. So that's the short answer. I think I'll stop there so we have more time for other questions.
All right, yeah, and we have more questions. Okay, so next question is about the SPIs. SPI optional points, how will they be used? Victor, maybe you can explain this.
Yeah, so I guess it's kind of kind of my last answer. Maybe I guess I could say that we're looking at two systems. One system that will in TCO certified portals, which will show brand owners, show how well brand owners are doing in comparison to the average of TCO certified products, and another system where we are looking to highlight some of these sustainability performance indicators and basically the result of them into a purchaser section on the product finder. But it's I mean, we will reach out to you during autumn when this system is up and running, and we can have further discussions then, I think.
Yeah, I guess for a lot of you out there, the SPIs are creates a lot of questions because you're not sure what the end result will be, and yeah, we understand that, but we think it's a good idea that will result in something very useful for both brand owners and also for buyers, for sure. All right, next question is about plasticizers, criterion 7.4. Plasticizers used in product housing and cable and wire installations must have been assigned a green screen benchmark score of 2, 3, or 4 by a licensed green screen profiler and appear on the public TCO certified accepted substance list. A benchmark U is only accepted when the worst case scenario for data gaps is considered to be a benchmark 2 or above. Exempted are connectors and wires inside electronic components. So now we come to the question. Are internal wires which connect PCB to PCB or FFC out of scope? Steve?
No, these are considered outside electronic components. You know, these are usually mounted or assembled during the final assembly of production. So these are in scope, these connecting wires, these internal connecting wires.
All right.
As they have been in TCO Certified Generation 8 also.
Yeah. Okay, next question for item 7.2.1.3, or item 3, the power PCB halogen test report. May I collect all the homogeneous material test reports as an evidence to support the requirement? Steve or Victor, I'm not sure who.
Yeah, I think that this sounds pretty much like the last question that we received on this. So if it's not from the same user or if it's similar, I would suggest, you know, contact us then, and we will have to look at it because it's so it's too general to answer on it right now.
Yeah. Okay, and we received one more question regarding Generation 8, and I think we explained this many times, but just I can maybe say once again so that it's clear. The final cutoff date for Generation 8 is December 1st, 2023. So after that date, all Generation 8 certificates will be canceled if they're not upgraded before that to Generation 9. Okay, maybe we have been on this this topic before. I'm not sure, but I'll read it anyway. Could you explain item 7.4.1 the exemptions in that, Steve? Maybe you can elaborate on that.
The exemptions. This is what we were into before, the HDDs, the SDDs. You know, these internal wires that are very difficult to assess if there are internal wires connected within that electronic component. But what's more simpler is those wires that are connecting these electronic components to the PCBs externally. So these are the ones that are in scope, and the HDDs, the SDDs are the ones that we consider to be electronic components. And you know, if there are internal wires inside these electronic components, then they are exempted from 7.4.
Okay, thank you. All right, so next question is about SPIs and the SPI score. May I know how's the difference to get a higher SPI score? If I get the lowest score, does that mean I don't pass generation 9? Victor, maybe you can explain this a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, this is a good good issue to bring, or topic to bring up. No, I mean, for generation 9, there is no minimum requirements for passing TCO certified in regards to the SPIs. You can basically look at them as I mean, kind of disconnected. Yes, like Andreas showed before, we have these different categories. I mean, some SPIs are gathered during the application process together with existing criteria, and some of these SPIs marked with a Z are I mean, beyond scope and require additional information in order to receive a higher classification than the lowest. But for compliance with TCO Generation 9, there is no minimum requirements that is needed to achieve in order to pass TCO certified. So that's very good to bring up and be clear about that. There's no minimum requirements on that.
Right. Okay, very good. Thank you, Victor. Next question. This is also something that may interest a lot of you. May I know when will the potential candidates for cleaning ingredients be added to the ASL? Steve.
Yeah, the potential candidates. Well, this all depends on the factories that are using these chemicals. If they want to continue to see these chemicals being used, or the possibility to use them, they have to have these ingredients, green screens, assessed to add them to the list. So they're just an indicator of, you know, the type of chemicals we've identified that could possibly receive at least a benchmark 2 or higher score, and this is an indicator to the industry of what chemicals they should invest in. Of course, if they are using a chemical that you know, they consider they want to continue using, that isn't on the potential candidate list, then you should go ahead and have that also assessed by a licensed green screen profiler. But the potential list is just our way of showing industry of what we've so far identified could possibly be added to the list.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay, so another question related to Generation 8 and the transition. Can we add a sales name to an existing TCO Certified Generation 8 certificate after December 1st this year? Andreas?
Yeah, that's possible. You will be able to update existing Generation 8 certificates for 2 years after the 1st of December 2021.
Okay. All right. Wow, there are so many questions. Let's go to the next one, also related to PCR, or product carbon footprint. The brand owner can share with TCO development some of these templates so that verifiers have the same understanding. Yeah, I guess that's a question. Can the brand owners share with TCO some of these templates so that the verifiers have the same understanding? Victor?
Yeah, I think that this, if I understood it, it's connected to the post-consumer recycled contents template and submission. So I mean, that sounds good. Just reach out to me by email, and we can have a look together to see that that it fits into what we are requesting.
Yeah, sorry, all these abbreviations.
There's a lot.
I said product carbon footprint, but it was PCR, not PCF. Yes. All right. Okay, I think that one we have answered. Let's go to this one regarding 8.2.1 mandate. Is there a mandate 8.2.1 report form for including take back name and recycling facility name?
Yeah, we will provide this form. So
Yeah.
don't worry, it will come.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Next question is also about upgrading. Let me, to upgrade to generation 9, is it a requirement to provide a test sample per the okay, let me rephrase that. If you have a generation 8 certificate and you want to upgrade to generation 9, is a test sample needed for this evaluation? Andreas?
Yeah, so we, as you said before, Martin, we will publish a guide document for upgrades explaining what is needed for doing this. Depends on the different product categories, and it also depends on the test results that you had within generation 8. So I can't say yes or no, but we will release this document, and in there you will have clear guidance of how to do it.
Yeah, and it will, I mean, we of course we understand getting a sample for upgrading is difficult, and if it's not necessary, we will try to avoid that.
Exactly.
So,
but
but
as
it
an
will
example,
differ.
yeah. But as an example, if, for example, we increase the battery criteria from 60% state of charge to 80% state of charge. So that being said, if you are under 80% with your generation 8 certificate, of course, then you would need to redo some product testing for that battery. But if you are above 80%, no, then you wouldn't have to do redo the product testing because you're already in scope of generation 9. So it's hard to say yes or no. It depends what your product is actually, how it's performing.
Okay. All right. Next question about the differences between generation 8 and generation 9. When can we get the list of these changes?
Yeah,
Andreas, maybe you can answer that.
We can send you the machine generated documents as of right now. So please reach out to us and we'll provide you with these. They will show you all the changes done between generation 8 and generation 9. Then we're also working on a more simplified version of this that's like a bit more easy to navigate through, which we will also upload on our generation 9 development webpage. So that's also coming.
Okay. All right. We have a few minutes left, a few questions left perhaps that we can have time to go through. If you feel that we have not reached your question, as I said, please feel free to email us. We'll be happy to answer. But let's take a couple of more before we close this webinar. For criterion 8.2.2 e-waste class 1, will it be shown on the TCO Certified Generation 9 certificate? Victor, maybe you can answer that.
Yes, so I'll revert to my previous answer of we will be more clear with this during the autumn. I mean I would say most likely not, but it's really not decided yet. So this will all be done before obviously we release generation 9. But as no generation 9 certificates will be presented before December 1st, we still have some time.
Okay. All right. I think we'll end here, but we'll take one last question before we close this webinar. And for those of you, as I said, who haven't received your answers, please feel free to email us, and we try to get you a good answer for that. Okay, last question. When will you publish when do you publish mandate 8.2.1 report form, including take-back name and recycling facility name on your website? Andreas, maybe you can take that.
Yeah. So the idea is that we will have it available before the 15th of June when the application actually starts. So it will be readily available before that date.
All right. Okay, so with that, I would like to thank you all for submitting your questions. And there was also one commenter that said that they had an unstable network and couldn't hear all the questions and answers. And they asked if we could publish this. I'm not sure. We will publish some form of questions and answers for sure. Maybe not exactly everything that was talked about in this webinar, but you will also find this webinar on our website on demand later on. And also all the presentation videos will be available on our website. And as I said, of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out either to me or to Andreas, or if you have a specific question and you know who's responsible for that area, of course, feel free to reach out to that person. So I would like to thank you all so much for joining this webinar, taking the time out of your busy schedules and asking very good questions. All right, with that, I'd like to say goodbye and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.